Live from Nipso Production Studios in the heart of America, it's Saturday Night Review, a podcast dedicated to the television show Saturday Night Live. With your hosts, Joseph and Denis. And here's Denis.
Oh, yes, thank you, and welcome everyone to the 18th episode of Saturday Night Review. He's Joseph.
And he's Denis.
And this is a YouTube podcast devoted to one of our favorite shows of all time, none other than Saturday Night Live. And we love this show, don't we, Josephina?
Oh, absolutely love it. Absolutely love it.
Almost more than anything. And we have been gone for a while. We took a little hiatus. We took a bit of a hiatus. Josephina and I are both educators, and we went on spring break, and we'll talk about that later. But we took a little break because not only that, but of course, as you all know, Linda, our engineer, who we dearly love, has had some personal issues, and I really don't want to go too much into it, but Linda has had to go to some rehab, and so we were there for Linda, and she said, go ahead and start without me. So we're going to do the show without Linda. We're missing her already, but
we miss you, Linda.
Yeah, but she'll be back soon. So Joseph, it's just up to you and me for this show. After a brief break, we're so glad to be back to do the Saturday Night Review. Why don't you tell everybody what they can expect on this episode?
Well, usually, here's what we do. Usually, we talk about the host, how we thought of them, him or her. We talk about Weekend Update. We talk about the top 3 skits that we liked or that we felt were the best or that we felt jived with us. And then we talk about the next week's host. However, on this episode of the SNL Review, I think we're just going to talk about feelings.
What we think. See, we've been with Linda the last couple of weeks, and that's what we've done a lot of our feelings, haven't we?
A lot of feelings processing.
Yeah, a lot of feelings.
A lot of feelings processing.
Joseph, it's been a couple of weeks. Anything exciting happened since we last talked to you?
Well, the last time we spoke, Denis, actually, not much has necessarily happened to me, but I know that for a fact, you have had some exciting news.
I do. We were on spring break, as we mentioned, and something that I did for spring break is took my 17-year-old daughter, Alexis, to Hamilton up in Chicago.
Fascinating.
Yes, and I want to be the first to say this, and I'm going to share this with Joseph for the first time and the people listening. I just want to tell you this. I think this Hamilton thing, it's going to be big. So you might want to watch for that, because I think this Hamilton play is going to be huge. It really is.
You're talking about the Broadway play, right?
Oh, yes. The Broadway musical that was nominated by 16 Tonys, yes. I think this is going to be a big thing. I think this is going to be a very popular thing. But it was fantastic. But not only that, there was more to Chicago, because a block down from our hotel, there was a wonderful place called the Museum of Broadcasting. In the Museum of Broadcasting, they certainly have a lot of interesting things, but something they have right now, and they have when we were up there, is something called the SNL Experience. They pretty much have brought in artifacts from Saturday Night Live, and you can walk through it like a museum. It was a great experience. We went in, and right when you walked in, there was a wall with all of the present and past members of the cast, which was obviously, you can imagine how big that wall was. It was huge. And then you walked in, and what they did was they took you through day by day. So as you know, they start on Tuesday usually. And in the Tuesday room, there was what looked like was supposed to be a replica of Lorne Michaels' desk from way back when. And over the corner, there was a telegraph. And in the telegraph was actually Lorne Michaels' first telegraph to NBC over what he thought the show was going to look like. Like he said, I think we'll have a different guest every week. I think we'll have comedy. We'll have a musical act. Like, all that was in there. And that was his proposal kind of to NBC when they said, hey, we want you to do a show. What's it going to look like?
So what, like, so was that like what you saw on the Telegraph? Was it actually the template that now exists today for
it's
the current
pretty
show?
Close. Yeah. Yeah, it kind of is. Yeah, it was very interesting. So I was totally, obviously geeking out. Then you walk in a room and it looks like if you've seen the first season, there were the steps and it was kind of a smallish stage at first. And that was the actual set, or at least it was a replica of the set from the first season, which was just kind of, again, I'm geeking out. And then you turn the corner and you look at the top of the steps and who's looking down at you but Land Shark. And if you know Land Shark from the old show, the Land Shark, or again, a replica of Land Shark, was staring down at you. And then you went into a room where they showed the table, the reading table, how big it is, which, by the way, it's gargantuan.
Sure.
And then on top of that was an interactive thing that had arrows pointing, Lord Michael sits here, Kenan Thompson sits here. There's food on the table. There are papers flying back and forth. And I'm sure it's what the table looks like during a reading. And then above that, there were 3 screens of writers talking about what it's like to be in the reading room and how that goes and writing for the show and all that. So it was amazing. Then you go into another room and it shows, at that point, it shows where they build the sets. They send this place to a particular place to build the sets. And they showed some of that, what that looks like. Then you go to the next room and it was costumes, a lot of famous costumes. And what always amazes me about costumes from TV, and have been to other TV shows, tours of other TV shows that use costumes like this, is how absolutely mundane and fake they look up close. But then you put them on TV and they look really good. I don't know how this happens, but I'm like, this looks like a 5-year-old did it. And then you get on TV and it's like, oh my God, it's awesome, So a lot of costumes for a lot of famous people. The wedding gown of Stefan was there. A gentleman who put things in boxes, their outfits were there. The guys from Jeopardy, Burt Reynolds, when he wore the big cowboy hat, that was there. Just a lot of great costumes. And just too many to take pictures of, but I did. And then the next room, you go in the control room, and what they had going was they had a show, and it was a show when The Rock was there from way back. And they showed... You could hear the directors, take 2, take 3, close up on 1, get him in there. And you had what was going on in front of the camera, what we were seeing at home on one screen, and in the bottom left, what they were seeing from 3 other cameras. So you saw like The Rock come in and get situated, and then he was on, right? So like you could see him getting ready for his part. And then they took us into... From there, they escorted us in. We sat like we were on the floor seats of the actual SNL show. And they had a stage in front of us, the main stage, and 2 stages to the left and right. And they brought a screen down, and Tina Fey was the host of the museum. And she said, welcome to the museum. I'm honored to be here for this museum tour, blah, blah, blah. Told a little bit told a little bit of a monologue. And then she welcomed the musical guests, which was highlights from everybody. And while that was playing over to our left, the screen was still down in front, and they showed you as they take things away and get ready for the next section, like Weekend Update, how they tear down and put the set up while things are going on to your right and your left. So while one stage was playing, the other 2 were tearing down and building up, like you were actually there. So that was pretty cool. So
it sounds like not a lot of people would find this interesting, including myself, but apparently you had a really good time.
I totally geeked out. Loved it. It was a great experience.
No, but in all seriousness, though, I'm a little bit jealous. And is that like on display indefinitely, or is it just like a limited time kind of a...
Good question. We're
exhibit?
Recording in April, and I believe we went at the end of March, and I believe the end of March is how... What I heard was up to March 31st. Now, they may extend it. They may not. I don't know.
So you got in there.
Yes. And I didn't know if I was going to, because we were going up for Hamilton. But then when we saw that was just just a block away from our hotel, how could you not at that point? So we got up and went and just walked over. And, there were 6 people there. It wasn't very crowded. So, but it was great. As a Saturday Night Live geek, a self-professed Saturday Night Live geek, I was geeking out like crazy at all the stuff and all the crazy stuff. And what's funny is my 17-year-old daughter, who doesn't really watch TV very much, but she watches Saturday Night Live and she laughs and she loves, funny stuff. They were showing like the old skits, like John Belushi and the samurai skits, and she was laughing at those, and she was laughing at the older skits. And so I think she got a lot out of it, and I got a lot out of Hamilton, even though it was for her, and she got a lot out of Saturday Night Live Experience, even though it was for me. So it was a good experience all the way around.
So doesn't that speak to the timelessness of the show, though, in all honesty?
Yes.
Like, I feel like, in the past, Dennis and I, we've talked about this, and this has been mentioned in various accounts from people who have hosted the show, people who have worked on the show, writers, so on and so forth, about how since the last, 44 years now, 43 years, it's been talked about at least several times, at least once per decade, that the show could possibly be canceled.
Oh yeah, Saturday Night did.
Stores.
Yeah.
Yeah, and exactly. And this tells me, this kind of affirms the fact that I don't know if it ever will, because it reaches such a broad audience, not only gender, not only, age demographic, but just like in terms of time. Like if your daughter is sitting there watching that and she's laughing, it just tells me that it's going to be around for a long time. And then soon after this episode aired, it was officially canceled.
Go figure. Way to go, Kiss of Death.
So yeah. So when you say, this was aired in April, and then it was canceled at the end of May.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. But no, absolutely, absolutely. The timelessness. It was a lot of fun for me to see skits that I haven't seen for 20 or 30 years, and for her to laugh at them, really, like you said, just kind of made you think, wow, the timelessness. You're right. I mean, you go back and look at the samurai skits, and we could talk forever about this, but over and all, it was a really good trip and a lot of fun. So I posted the pictures on our YouTube video, so I'm sure you've probably gone through those. And hey, let's take a quick break here. Let's come back and talk about the recent Saturday Night Live. We've had a nice trip down Amnesia Lane. So let's take a little break here, and we will be back and talk about the host of last week's Saturday Night Live, Sandra Oh, right after this. So,
Dennis, when you went there, just to get specific here, did they have any wax figures of, say, Danny Aykroyd, Jane Curtin, anything of that nature?
Well, it's funny, as I was walking to the SNL Experience, a guy that looked a lot like Jim Belushi was over in the corner asking for coins, and he didn't look very good. But I didn't see any wax figures inside the place.
Okay.
Gosh, I should give him more money.
That would have been nice, man.
Yeah, at least give it a part on the show. I don't know.
Hey, when's the next time you're actually going to meet the ghost of John Belushi and be able to give him money?
I know. I felt bad for him, but he was even he had the glasses from the Blues Brothers 2000 movie. Oh, just sad.
Not
really
even
sad.
The original. Not even the original glasses from the original film.
No, really sad. Really sad. He said, "Hey, remember me?" And I said, "Yeah," and gave him a quarter and walked away.
You are watching and listening to Saturday Night Review on the Nipso Productions YouTube channel.
Guess what? I got a fever. And the only prescription is more cowbell. Thank you, Bruce.
Hey guys, we're back, and thank you for listening to the SNL Review. I am Joseph, and he is my sidekick / life partner, Dennis.
Hello.
And we are going to be talking about the host of last week's SNL episode, hosted by Sandra Oh. But before we delve into that, we want to remind you that if you like what you're hearing, or if you want to spread the word, or if you don't like what you're hearing and you want to spread the word and maybe tell an enemy, we'd love to know what you think about the show. And that can be done in the comment section below this video, or you can email us personally at nipsoproductions@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. We've heard from several people so far, some of them good, a couple of them great, and then the others are just kind of in between. So we would love to hear from you. But now let's get to the heart of the matter here, Dennis.
Yeah.
Sandra Oh.
Yes.
What did you think? I'm honestly very curious in terms of what you thought. So I'm going to preface this by saying this. Before we get started, I've gotten to the point, if our current listeners have paid attention, I'm always trying to figure Dennis out, and I'm always trying to predict what he'll think, because when I think that he'll love a host, or when I think that he'll love a show, he actually says, meh, it was okay. And when I think that, oh, for sure, like he didn't feel this one, he actually thought it was brilliant, and it could go on record as one of the best of the season. So once again, I've made my secret prediction.
Yeah.
But I want to hear what you think, and I want to see if my assessment was right or completely inaccurate.
Well, I am an enigma wrapped in a riddle. So if you did not know that, but Sandra Oh, or if you are in New York, it's Sandra Oh. She had a background. She kind of vlogged during the week, and I kind of followed her vlog during the week on Twitter. And in her vlog, she mentioned something I didn't know about her, which she spent 4 years in Toronto with a stand-up group, with an improv group. And if you know anything about comedy, Chicago and Toronto are pretty hot spots, especially for obviously Canadian humor. Toronto is a pretty big place. Chicago is also a big spot, but Toronto, known in Canada as a kind of a hotbed. Kids in the Hall came from there. A lot of people came from Toronto. So she worked 4 years in an improv group. So when I saw that, I got really excited. Sure. I said, oh, now she's just going to fall right in. And she did. I thought not only did she do well, I thought straight up she saved some skits. And we'll get into that later when we talk about our top three. But I'm sorry, she was above fantastic. In my opinion, the best host of the year. That's right. I said it. The best host of the year. She fell right into line. She was not just a cast member. In my opinion, she did, like I said, she saved some skits. I thought she was fantastic. I cannot wait for her to host again. Joseph, take that.
Okay, I think actually I, for once, was actually somewhat correct in, I'm going to say, my assessment and what I thought of your assessment. So I will just add this little caveat. Ooh. I think, and I honestly, thank you for sharing that information about the Toronto Improv Group, because I didn't actually realize that, and it was helpful to know. But you can definitely sense that when you saw her performance. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to start with her monologue capabilities moving through the show, and I am going to agree with you that when I saw the monologue, something told me that this girl was very comfortable in front of a live audience. You just got that sense. Definitely. She was very fluid. She was very natural. The only thing I'm going to add in terms of the caveat to my assessment is I 100% agree with you. I think she did save some skits. I felt with her talent and her ability, I honestly think that she was underutilized.
Okay, yeah.
There were a couple skits where I thought that she was kind of playing a straight character. And when we get to our top three, I feel like, the ones that I chose or that I tried to select definitely showcased her acting and, as you'll say, her improv comedy ability.
Yes.
She was very, very, I don't want to use the phrase over the top, but you could definitely tell that she was trying to push some comedic limits in terms of her mannerisms, her actions. She definitely had the gusto, Dennis.
Oh yeah, my gosh,
to be a character, and she actually did. As you saw, she played some actual characters. And I saw the show, and I was thinking, wow, she is really good. There was about a couple skits though where I was like, guys, you could have gave her the lead in that one. She could have been the lead in all of them. And honestly, you're better about this than I am. I was trying to think of another host where I felt that they gave that, you want to give somebody again, I'll say The Rock or Tom Hanks or something like that, where you can actually, Alec Baldwin, you can hand them the lead and they'll go with it. Mm-hmm. And I kind of felt that, and I don't know if it was because her first time, but I honestly think it's not her last time. I surely hope not.
I hope not.
But I completely agree with you 100% that she was probably, in my opinion, you're right, one of the best hosts. I just would have liked to have seen her. I would have liked to have seen more written specifically for her. That's what I was saying. Yeah.
That's fair. And I think that's a fair assessment, but you can't blame her for that. And I just thought, wow, I can't wait when the show ended, I can't wait for her to come back. So,
for sure. Yes. Yeah. She was absolutely wonderful. Absolutely brilliant.
Yes. And she was amazing. And we like to spotlight the host on this show and discuss his or her achievements. And she has a lot of achievements. But really, I mean, who has the time with Linda being in rehab? As we mentioned before, our engineer Linda is in rehab, so she's not here. So we're kind of doing this ourselves. So instead, we decided to start a new feature where we just kind of make up facts that aren't true about the host. And we're going to call this feature Facts That Are Not True. And now, Saturday Night Review is proud to present Facts That Are Not True About Sandra Oh. Huh?
Can I just say this for the listeners? Some of you listening to this right now might actually think that this is really ridiculous. And it is.
Yeah, you're right.
Continue.
Okay, I'll go first. Facts that are not true about Sandra Oh. Since she has improv experience, and she was 4 years in Toronto in improv, I think it's safe to say that you could say it's not true, but you could say that Sandra Oh, could she possibly be the reason that the Kids in the Hall broke up? Not true.
Oh, see, now you had me going with that one, Dennis. She's
not the reason. She's not the reason the kids. No, she's not.
She is not the reason. Okay, Dennis. Facts that are not true. She is actually famed Beatles splitter upper, if you will, Yoko Ono. Famed Yoko Ono's. She's actually Yoko Ono's niece. I don't know if you knew that, and if you didn't know that, there's no reason for you to, because it's in fact not true.
All right. Hey, another thing that's not true about Sandra Oh. This is fascinating. You will not hear this anywhere else, but it is not true that Sandra Oh, she is the Last Jedi. Not true. Sandra Oh, the Last Jedi, not true. That is not Sandra
Oh. She is actually, another fact about Sandra Oh, she is actually currently working on her own HBO special called Oh, Is This Really Sandra Oh?
Not true.
Not true.
And finally, for me, something that's not true about Sandra Oh, she once shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. Not Sandra Oh. She never did that.
One unfact about Sandra Oh, she's actually certified or licensed to fly a plane, be a massage therapist, teach 4th grade, and run a company designed to make cell phones.
And all at the same time. Not true. Okay, that was facts that are not true. Now, there are also some list of facts that host Sandra Oh could be true. This is possible future facts, but probably never will be. And a feature we like to call facts that could be, but probably never will be. And now, Saturday Night Review is proud to present facts that could be, but probably will never be true about Sandra Oh. Huh? We can only afford the one soundtrack. Okay. Things that could be true in the future, but may never be true in real life. I hope that someday she has a male child or a female child, and that child should be called UH, so that you can call Uh-oh. I went there.
Here's something that's not true about Sandra Oh, but could potentially become true. And if it is, can we just say that, Dennis, we should make bets on this, because the odds on these and the payout would be
fantastic,
ginormous. Especially
Vegas is calling right now.
Vegas is calling right now, especially on this one. Sandra Oh could potentially win an Oscar. Wait for it, for best musical score.
Oh, she's so talented. It could happen. Another thing that could be true is, and you had mentioned this earlier, but if she dated Yoko Ono and got married, she could be known as Sandra Oyoko.
She could very well appear in a Ken Burns documentary. Wait for it. over the Civil War again.
Oh my gosh, yes. And finally, for me, something that I think that could happen more recent and may actually happen for her. Facts that are not true that possibly could be someday, that Sandra Oh walks away for an Emmy for Saturday Night Live. And I hope that happens because she was that good.
You actually do hope that happens.
I do hope that
legit.
happens. Yes, I wanted to walk away with an Emmy.
Yeah. One thing that could be very, very untrue for Sandra Oh is that she could leave the luxurious, cush lifestyle of Hollywood for the realm of Scientology, which is seemingly just as cush and seemingly just as unrealistic as Hollywood.
Well, I wish one of those to be true for you, Sandra, if you're listening. And that is, of course, to get the Emmy. And I hope that that does happen for her. So we've had a lot of fun talking about things that have never happened and may never happen to Sandra Oh. But as a host of Saturday Night Live, she did a great job. So thanks, Sandra Oh, for being a wonderful host. Let's take a break here and let's come back and talk about Weekend Update, shall we?
Sounds good.
All right. We'll be right back after this.
You know, Dennis, I have to be honest with you, man. Since Linda's not here to help us out, the quality of the show has really, really gone downhill. I honestly don't think that's going to resonate at all with any of the listeners.
No, they've turned us off halfway through that. I sure.
mean, if they're listening to that and going, is this really the best they can do? And we're saying that it is. I mean, we're in deep trouble, dude.
Yeah, more thumbs down, man.
Thumbs down, definitely.
We got to get her. We got to get her back. I know she's doing much better. She's down to like half a pack a day, so I think that's going to help. So,
okay,
is that good?
I guess it is. I guess it's funny that you mentioned that because when we were doing some pre-taping or when we were going through the sets the other day, I noticed that she kept frequently going out to her car. And yeah. Well, no, I mean the concerning thing, I guess, is she kept saying, "Oh, I forgot something. Oh, I forgot something," and she forgot it like 3 or 4 times. But then I noticed one time when she was going out to her car, in her hand was a baggie filled with white powder, and then she had a spoon in her mouth, and then what seemed to be the remains of a crumpled up McDonald's bag. Now that's kind of irrelevant, I'm sure.
Oh.
But then I'm wondering to myself, why does she need all that baby powder?
Well, it's funny because I asked her that same thing. I saw her, and it's funny because you're going to laugh. It's kind of silly. What it is it's sugar. It's a spoon, and she's brewing tea out in her car. It's sun tea.
Oh.
And so she's taking that and putting the sugar in her tea, and that's what she has for her break.
Oh,
and she had McDonald's, and she was in a hurry, so she didn't, she ate it up in the control room, and then she, was taking the bag out. So,
yeah.
See?
No.
Yeah, I know.
Now that makes sense. I'm so glad you said something, because I was, really starting to get concerned. I mean, we did those 3 interventions, and I'm like, okay, is this really not going to take? So I'm honestly really glad that it wasn't something dangerous or something secretive or something. No, that totally makes sense. And
I think she's
who doesn't love sun tea, man?
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. So okay. No, I mean you got to give her the benefit of the doubt. So
absolutely. She has great tea too. I've had some once, and I could see colors and I hear colors and see sounds and stuff. It was pretty amazing. Yeah.
Is that
really good tea?
Is that the kind they make in the South, I'm assuming?
I guess. I tell you what, I now know why they have so much egg on tea in the South, because that was some experience. Wow. I've never seen music in the air like that before, but wow.
Lipton doesn't make it like that, baby.
Mm-mm.
You are watching and listening to Saturday Night Review on the Nipso Productions YouTube channel.
Well, isn't that special?
Well, that's weird because she told me that those bottles up in the control room that she was saving to make candles out of them. Is that not what she told you?
No. Well, yeah. I mean, I guess that's something similar. I for some reason I thought she told me something different. She had told me she was saving those bottles to put highlighter innards in them and to make them glow like you do in your college dorm room, which I thought was kind of odd because Linda's mid-50s.
Yeah.
And so I'm going, okay, well, what room are you going to leave them in here? So, and it didn't really make sense to me, but
wow.
I mean, I don't know, man. Either one of those could be plausible. I might have heard wrong. You might have heard wrong.
Well, we wish you the best anyway. We're back.
Here, I'm sorry.
The lights
My
lit.
bad.
Thanks
Here we
for
go.
joining us again. We're talking about last week's Saturday Night Live show with Sandra Oh, and recorded on, or actually shown on March 30th, 2019. We're going to talk about what we thought of Weekend Update in this section of that show. Joseph, what are your thoughts on Weekend Update from this particular programma?
So yeah, I'm sorry, man. This one, I feel like, we praise Sandra Oh so much. And Weekend Update, for me, Dennis, it's hit or miss, and I feel like this time it was more of a miss. I don't know. There wasn't necessarily anything that really kind of like stuck out to me. I will say this though, when I was thinking about our taping today, I was thinking, when it comes to Weekend Update, with me personally, it's either, okay, Joseph, are you seeing your favorite guests on there, and then you're kind of basing it on that, or are you actually focusing on Colin and Shay's jokes? And then
good point.
I'm trying to be objective, and I even think that this time the jokes weren't necessarily as funny.
They were kind of bummed.
They were kind of, yeah. And again, some of the characters they had on, like 80 was on there. I did like Cecily's character. What is it, Janine Shapiro? Yeah, and I love when she does that. And that was not bad. But even that, I was like, okay, that wasn't the Janine Shapiro that has made me laugh, bust a gut before. So I don't know. It was kind of middle of the road to me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it made me bust a gut. Cecily Strong did, and 80 as Anne McClain, I thought was really good, being the female that couldn't go out on the spacewalk, and being okay with that's okay. I thought that was pretty clever. I thought the guests were strong. I agree. Kind of a downtime, I guess, for the news. There's a lot of bummer. Che had a great line talking about white people having toxic optimism, which I thought was a great line.
Yes, yeah.
But aside from that, it wasn't the best Weekend Update. It wasn't the best week for a Weekend Update, I don't think. There just wasn't a lot going on, and none of it was very hooray kind of stuff. And none of it was it was kind of low key this week. It's been really easy for a long time, and this week they were handed some things that they really didn't know how to comment on. I mean, it's hard what's happened this week. It was a turbulent time in this country, not only politically, but then you had the Jussie Smollett thing, which we'll talk about, I'm sure. And we'll talk, just a lot of weird, crazy stuff happening. You kind of go, what the heck's going on? And they kind of looked at the camera like, what the heck's going on? I thought. It's hard sometimes. I thought this was a hard week for them. It would be a hard week for me to come up with anything really, really gut-wrenchingly funny. But I did laugh a lot during Weekend Update. But and I thought Strong and 80 were very, very good. But as far as the jokes, there's nothing that struck me as really, really funny. Just kind of them going, what do we talk about,
Right, kind of, yeah. And I mean, that's an interesting point that you make up in terms of the news being a little bit somber than it has,
Yeah.
So yeah. So I mean, fair assessment on both sides, I feel.
Yeah, me too. So that's what we thought Weekend Update. And I think it was just it wasn't the best Weekend Update. It wasn't the worst, but Strong and 80 certainly helped. So definitely. I think that's what we thought of Weekend Update. So let's take a break, and let's come back and we'll talk about our favorite part, which is we talk about our personal top 3 favorite skits of this last Saturday Night Live. I love this part of the show because we talk about all the skits from that show and our top 3, and then the ones that maybe didn't make our list an honorable mention. And we'll do that right after this.
Yeah, so hey Dennis, I have to be honest with you now that I'm kind of thinking about it. And I don't know if this is making sense here. I'm starting to think that Linda's not telling the truth about some of these things.
What?
Yeah, I know. And part of me wants to believe it, but then part of me is going that some of this very subversive behavior is actually her using everything.
Submersive behavior. Is she going under things?
No.
What's that mean?
Well, I think she's just hiding it from us. And And I'm kind of surprised that we didn't realize it before. I mean, I think I might be right.
Well, I'll tell you this. I have actually been to her little apartment, and there is a Grateful Dead poster on the front door, and I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, she's probably telling the truth. I mean, the Grateful Dead is a great band, though. So I mean, you can't.
Yeah.
You can't.
And I noticed like her doors all had they all had like rolled up carpet next to them. I know, rolled up towels and carpet. I don't understand what that meant.
Did it smell like my mom's bad potpourri when I was growing up?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit.
Mm.
She burns a lot of incense, but I just thought she was like really into incense. That's all.
Oh well, yeah, because I mean, my mom was really into incense too. So
Yeah.
no, that makes sense. I mean, Linda's cool, man, right?
Yeah. She's fine. We're fine. She'll be back next week. We'll be fine. She's fine. We're good.
You are watching and listening to Saturday Night Review on the Nipso Productions YouTube channel.
You're gonna end up eating a steady diet of government cheese and living in a van down by the river.
And we're back. Thanks for joining us on the Saturday Night Review. We hope you're having fun talking about the show. Listen to us talk about the show. Sending us your comments about last Saturday Night Live show on March 30th involving Sandra Oh. We've talked about her as a host. We talked about Weekend Update. But now comes our favorite part, because we get to talk about our top 3 skits from this show. And a show that had actually a lot of skits, if not, we'll talk about the quality later, but there were a lot of skits on this show to choose from. So, Joseph, I always like you to go first, because I can then come in and tell you how stupid your top 3 are. So, Joseph, tell us your top 3 skits from the Sandra Oh Saturday Night Live show from March 30th, please.
Also, you're a gentleman and I'm a lady, so it's just common courtesy.
You wish.
Yeah, so I'm going to go back and say that I thought that Sandra Oh did a fantastic job.
Yes.
I still had a little bit of difficulty trying to choose my skits. I wouldn't say a lot of difficulty, because there were, I'm going to say 2 that I was definitely contending for the number 1 spot.
Mm-hmm.
So my number 3, you probably won't agree with this, and that's fine. But this one, for some reason, and this is so weird that you brought up Kids in the Hall earlier, this one honestly made me think of an old Kids in the Hall skit, the way it was filmed, the absurdity of it, and that is The Duel. I thought it was just kind of stupid, but I've said this before on the show. Sometimes I can't necessarily explain why I like it, and I think subconsciously it did remind me of something older, like Kids in the Hall.
Yeah.
And so it was just kind of stupid, and for some reason, it just appealed to me, so I chose it as my number 3. Definitely not my number 1, obviously, but I chose it as my number 3, The Duel.
Excellent.
Now, the next 2 I feel very, very strongly about, and I'd be interested to know if either one of these are on your list. But number 2 for me was Test Prep. Test Prep for me, I watched, again, some of these skits, sometimes I go back online and I watch over again, just because I need to reevaluate and reassess them. And sometimes I laugh just as much, if not more. And sometimes I kind of reassess and go, wow, I really laughed at that the first time. I don't know why I'm not laughing now. This one I laughed even more. I thought the premise of it was actually kind of brilliant, where you have these teenagers talking about these giving these very dramatic soliloquies that don't make any sense whatsoever, with the subs questioning regarding the SAT. I thought that was really, really, really funny to me.
Well, and can I just add what we do for a living?
Yeah,
Joseph and I, what we do for a living is work with teenagers, and so anyone who works with teenagers is going to watch that skit and go, "Oh, they nailed it! They nailed it!"
And then my number 1, if I can, I'm trying to think of the skit's called Future Self.
Yeah.
But for some reason in my head, I want to title it Tishy Tishy, Make It Nice and Squishy.
Tishy Tishy.
Tishy Tishy. She got that good goo-goo, which is something that actually I said to my wife on our third date, to be honest with you.
I bet that went well.
Yeah. And again, so Dennis, this is the skit that I feel Sandra Oh could have done this in all of the skits they had given her. Now, I will say this, and you absolutely said this correctly. That's not her fault. Like I mean, the writers gave her this and she did what she was supposed to do. But I'm telling you, I honestly think the next time, now that we've seen this, I'm going to be expecting future self. Like I'm going to be expecting characters like Tishy at least make 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like that was one that I was on the floor about.
That was excellent. She truly
so
displayed her comedic timing and
yes,
her freedom to just do anything in Tishy. Yeah.
Yes. So those are my top 3. And
excellent.
I'm going to say that Future Self is, again, probably one of my best of the season. I'm just going to say, like, it was just so funny.
Wow. Okay. Well, my 3 are not totally different, but 2 of them are, which is interesting. My number 3 is old Tishy. Your arm's still broken 10 years later, which I love that line. They moved 10 years in the future and her arm is still broken. That was spectacular.
Yes.
She was spectacular. And that's when I sat back and said, oh, I can't, she's got to host again. Please.
Yes.
It was good. It was really good. It was my number 3 though. And the 2 above it, I liked the premise probably more than the skits themselves, but Tishy was my number 3, or, mirror dude or whatever. Number 2 for me, I thought the concept was absolutely brilliant. And it was the Discover Card commercial, because in the Discover Card commercials, they talk to themselves on the commercials.
Yep.
So they're playing that on us, which I don't know much about it, but my daughter did see it and I showed her this skit and she said, that is brilliant. So that's all I need to know.
I can see that.
So I thought whoever came up with the idea of doing the Discover Card commercial and combining that with us, whoever wrote that should be given a free steak dinner. That concept in itself is brilliant. So I just couldn't get over how great that idea was. So that got my number 2. Probably a little bit more than it should, but so what? My number 1 is personal. It always is personal. When I love the host and I hosted a great job. But Kate McKinnon in Office Meeting wanting a quiche. I want a quiche. You got quiche.
Quiche.
I could not stop laughing. And then she'd look at the camera like, uh-huh. And when she made her list and she got her clipboard out, I lost it. And I can't remember what was on that clipboard, but I know it ended in something called a 6-way Spider-Man. And for the love of God, I don't know what happened for the next 2 minutes, because I was laughing so hard at the phrase, a 6-way Spider-Man coming out of an 85-year-old lady. That I couldn't. She went through all this stuff and then we finished with a 6-way Spider-Man. And you've got a clipboard, and I'm sorry. When she brought the clipboard out, I was done. So that's where I laughed the hardest. Now, I will say, and I will start the honorable mentions, because I think the other 2 that you have, I didn't have on my list, were very good. Sandra Oh as the teacher in the test prep was amazing. It was fun to watch Pete lose it and trying so hard to write on whatever paper was in front of him.
Yes,
just
sir.
So he
no,
could,
sir.
Oh God. Oh my God. Just so he would not lose it.
Yes.
And watching him, I love skits when you watch people that can't handle it. And he couldn't handle it. And so that to me, that's a great one that we didn't talk about. I didn't care for the Roots of Rock, Electric Shoes.
Okay, so can we talk about that for 1 second?
Yeah,
I felt that the Electric Shoes, was it not? And I don't know if this is something that I don't know, and I don't want to undermine what they're doing on the show, but I honestly feel that this was Keenan's recycling of What Up With That.
Absolutely, it's what I wrote down.
And I don't know if it was something that the writers said, "Hey man, we need something. Who's got anything? Okay, yeah, let's do that."
Yeah.
And that's honestly what I felt. It was exactly just a recycle of What Up. And here's the thing: I will say this: I absolutely love What's Up With That, and I loved
me too.
When he did it. But I like it for that and not this.
Yeah, I agree. Chex was good. Chex was funny.
I like the premise of it. Yeah.
Yes. Well done. Some of the other ones, the Kremlin, was okay. Sandra Oh as the interpreter I had me rolling. She had me rolling as the interpreter. So I thought that was a good one too. The cold open was okay.
It was okay.
Yeah. I'm like FDR, but with legs, which is a terrible thing to say, but it came out of Trump's mouth in that skit. I cleverly done. You had the three people, and then you saw the three people interpreting one thing three different ways, which I thought was funny. The elephant in the room I will now talk about is the Jesse Smollett skit, which a lot of people have criticized since that show aired. I
have they really?
Huh? I couldn't get it.
Have
Ouch.
they really now?
Oh yes, ouch. There was not a lot of laughter in the audience, if you noticed. There was polite laughter and some applause at the end, but oof. So that was rough. And I don't know if it was necessarily because of the content or just because it was kind of a 2-second joke that lasted 5 minutes. I don't know.
So here, I would like to address something though. So it's weird because I honestly didn't know that. And that wasn't necessarily, I guess, in terms of, it wasn't on my comedic radar. I love Chris Redd. I don't think it was like his best thing. And again, Sandra Oh was kind of playing a straight character. So I think I honestly kind of just glanced over it. But the funny thing is, though, it's weird that you mentioned that. So that one made it through dress, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
But on the website, and again, sometimes I like to watch the cut for times.
Yes.
So there was another skit on the website called College Admissions that was also dealing with kind of, I wouldn't say it's controversial. It was, the college admissions scams. But that one didn't make it. Which I found kind of odd.
Interesting, yeah.
When you mentioned that and the backlash that it got. So that one made it through dress. And again, you said there was kind of like,
there's been a little bit of backlash with the small skit, and it was right out of the gate too. So that's another thing I'm kind of like, wow, that's what you open with. Because that was the first skit.
For sure.
There was the Discover Card commercial, which was a film, which was right after the monologue. And then Jesse went right into Jesse Smollett. And I'm like, wow, you're going to come right out with that.
Yep.
Which was a little crazy for me. But, be it as it may, I didn't, it was okay. I just, for some reason, I couldn't laugh at it. And I don't know if it was personal or just, I don't know.
So this, I'm sorry, this involves a question. So I completely understand where you're coming from, Dennis. But I will say, I do remember thinking when I watched it, while it didn't necessarily resonate with me, or, I kind of, bypassed it. I do remember thinking you know what? I've always liked, in the spirit of SNL, of them pushing the envelope.
Yes.
And taking it to places where you're kind of going, oh.
Yes.
Now I will say this. I didn't get that from this skit, but I remember thinking oh, okay, that's SNL, So
yes.
in that same vein, even though you didn't laugh, or, you might've been kind of sensitive to it, is this something you still recognize, or is this, in your opinion, I don't know if I would have touched that?
Absolutely. Exactly what I expect him to do. You're going to make some omelets. You're going to break some eggs.
Yeah.
And I am more than okay with that skit being on the show. You are, when you teeter across that line to get a laugh, you sometimes hit a home run, and it's personal.
Yes.
There's some out there that may find that really funny, and that's fine. I just didn't. But I'm glad. Yeah, in the spirit of the show, absolutely. Am I glad they did what they did? Oh, of course, because that's what the show's about. You take chances. Yeah. Just for me, this chance particularly was not the best chance, but I respect the fact that they, like I said, they broke some eggs to make some omelets. That's okay. I'm all right with that.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. I think so. I notice this sometimes when I'm sorry. It kind of comes for me. I notice it with Michael Shea, and some of the commentary that he gives on Weekend Update. And my thing is with that, similar with this skit, is I want them to break the eggs. You know what I mean? I always want them to attempt it. And as weird as it sounds, sometimes I don't I kind of like hearing the audience go, "Oh,"
Yeah, I'm okay with that too. Yeah.
I'm okay because again, it's like, you know what? This show, I feel like there's a lot of other shows that have kind of like, they felt that political correctness kind of like meter. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think SNL, I don't think they've been slapped with it yet. And I don't think they've necessarily, I don't know. I mean, and I'm probably wrong about that, but I don't think they've changed their standard at all. I don't think, so I agree with you.
No, I thought it was great, and I thought, I thought the idea that I thought I didn't like the skit itself, but the idea that they're doing it, absolutely,
Yes,
and it reminds me back to when, before the Louis C.K., before we knew Louis C.K. did what he did, and we're going to put that aside for a minute.
Yeah.
Let's go back in time when he was hosting,
Sure.
and he did his monologue about child molester.
Yep.
And again, you talk about, whoa, he did a skit about what?
Yep.
And I laughed the whole time. And he even said, I'm Louis C.K. This is the last time I'll be hosting on Saturday Night Live.
Right. And you're referring to his monologue.
Yes.
Yeah.
But to me, that was, oh, wow, that's just uncomfortable. But I couldn't stop laughing. If I had been uncomfortable with it, I still would have said, oh, gosh, that's really uncomfortable. But I appreciate the effort of trying to push the envelope. So,
yeah.
So,
you know what? And honestly, this would be, for listeners, if you're listening, that would be a great show to do. Skits that push the envelope. And we've mentioned a couple of them. I know for a fact that we've mentioned two on here. But I mean,
skits that maybe were,
Yeah. So
that's a good point.
Yeah.
So anyway, overall, I thought a pretty good show. Better than I had high expectations for Sandra Oh. The skits to me didn't meet her expectations, but it was still a good show.
That's well said. I think that's what I'm thinking. Didn't meet her expectations. Well said. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see what is in store for next week. Let's see what expectations we have with Kit Harington. We'll be right back to talk about next week's show right after this.
You are watching and listening to Saturday Night Review on the Nipso Productions YouTube channel.
Zutalos! Increíble!
Hey, if you've made it this far through Saturday Night Review, we sure appreciate it. He is Joseph, I am Dennis, and we're just a couple of fans of this show that like to talk about Saturday Night Live, so we hope you've enjoyed it. We hope you like to do that as well. We like to take this time and look towards next week's show on Saturday night. They are having a live show next Saturday night, and it's going to be first-time host Kit Harington. And if you don't know Kit Harington, and I'll admit that I don't, he is on this show called Game of Thrones.
I've not heard of that one.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not in. I don't have HBO, so I can't Game of Thrones it. But I always thought Game of Thrones was how long you waited until after Dad was in the bathroom. But that was the Game of Thrones I grew up with. But apparently, this Game of Thrones involves winter and dragons, and I don't know. There's a big throne there. Anyway. I don't know much about him. Joseph, you a Games of Thrones fan, are you?
I'm not. I also don't have HBO. I do hear a lot about it. It's pretty hot on the streets right now, but me, I'm not going to watch the movie, Dennis. I'm going to watch the book and see if it's better.
You're going to watch the book, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. You like to read, don't you?
So I'm not going to, I probably won't watch the show, to be honest with you. I'm going to watch him host SNL. But I'm going to wait until the book comes out on DVD, and then I'm going to watch that.
There it is. I hear you. Musical guest Sarah Bareilles. Another great name. But we don't do musical guests, so it doesn't matter. Game of Thrones is the only thing I could find that he's really done. I don't know much about him. It seems like the more serious the actor, the more chance they have to unwind. There's a really good chance he could be really crazy and goofy. It's his week to kind of say, let me show a different side of me to the world, because I'm always so serious and dry, if that's his case, and he can come out and really have a great show. So I'm kind of looking forward to it, because those kind of people usually can't wait to show their comedic chops. So I hope he's one.
True.
Yeah.
Well, and I will say this. I know for a fact that I have seen him do the late night circuit. Namely, he did a Game of Thrones-esque or related skit on Seth Meyers
Nice.
Former writer and one-time host of SNL. And it was actually pretty funny. I remember seeing that and going, he played along, like he was kind of poking fun at his character a little bit at the show. And he played along, and I have a feeling, now we don't know what's in store, we don't know what the writing's going to look like, but I have a feeling like we've seen all season, he could be a guy that is willing to play along. Like I think he'll be game for anything.
Yeah. A little bit of Chris Collinsworth. Now here's a guy that's on Game of Thrones is going to do comedy. But yeah, I'm the same way. I'm excited because I first off, I don't know the guy, so I'm excited just to see somebody new. Yeah. Only problem I have right now, I'm going to tell you right now, next week's show, there's going to be at least one Game of Thrones skit I'm not going to get. I'm going to be like, I don't get that. But so that's going to kind of hamper my top 3 probably. But other than that, if he shows up and has that willingness to do whatever they want him to do, then he's going to be a great host. So I'm looking forward to it.
I'm also looking. Well, okay, so I'm going to make a prediction. I might be wrong about this. This didn't happen with the hunk of steel known as Jason Aquaman that hosted several weeks ago. Yeah. Jason Mamma Mia.
You bring him up every episode.
Well, I wouldn't say it's every episode, but it's been about 7 of them.
It's every episode. But go ahead.
But I'd be wondering. I'd be curious to see if we have any other guest stars appearing from Game of Thrones. I mean, it's a pretty heavily populated show in terms of characters.
It is.
And I've seen this done. I saw it done years ago with Mad Men. They had several people from Mad Men enter the skit with John Hamm. Yeah. And so I'd be curious. It's a very, very popular show, and I want to know if, we're going to see one of the other characters that I have no idea about or know who plays them that appear on the show.
Well, where are my Walking Dead hosts? Where are my American Horror Story hosts? Sarah Paulson, I still call out to you. Sarah Paulson, honey, we got to get you on this show. I don't know. Sarah Paulson has to be on Saturday Night Live as a host. It has to happen. She's too funny. She's too brilliant. She's been in too many movies and too many shows. She's too talented not to be on there. You've got to get Sarah Paulson on there. I don't care what it takes. And then Walking Dead, my goodness. You got so many people to choose from Walking Dead, it isn't even funny. So, Game of Thrones is kind of taking over Saturday Night Live, and I'm a little angry because I want my shows to take over, but that's all right. I'll get over it.
Soon, buddy. Soon.
I know soon, and soon we'll have another wonderful episode of Saturday Night Review, but for right now, do you hear it?
I do, but I don't want to, man. It's my least favorite part of the show.
The band's playing us out. That's a hint. We still have a little time, though. This is always a lot of fun to talk about this show, Saturday Night Live. We hope you enjoyed thinking about the show, talking about the show. We look forward to another fine episode of Saturday Night Review real soon. But until then, he's still Joseph.
And he's still Dennis.
And we are out of here. Feel better, Linda. We love you.
Linda, I hope you make it back soon.
I tell you, it's not the same without Linda. It just isn't.
I tell you, it's not, man. I feel that's there's a levity in the studio. I mean, it's like the tension's not there, and I got to be honest with you, man. I think it's the little grease that makes this machine run. To be honest.
Yeah, she's greasy, all right.
Yeah, I mean, without her, it's just kind of awkward between you and I. At least she kind of breaks up that awkwardness. I feel with the staring and the.
You feel awkward?
Well, no.
Am I staring too much? I'm sorry.
It's it's the staring. It's the patting my hand unnecessarily.
Honestly, Joseph, if you don't talk to me about this stuff, how am I ever supposed to fix it?
Well, I never have to talk about it because Linda's usually here, and she's usually the focal point. We have to focus all our attention and energy on her because she's either not doing her job well or she's clearly not doing her job. So without her gone, I'm forced to have these very, very awkward conversations with you. So please, Linda, we miss you. Get well soon.
Yeah, come back, Linda. It might be just the Joseph show next week. We'll see.
Oh, don't say that.
Yeah, whatever. Maybe. We'll see. Linda, come back. You might have an empty speech.
No, I don't want to. No, I'm terrible with things. Don't make me do that.
No, we'll talk later. We'll see next week, maybe. Maybe not. I don't know.